Today, we're firing up the comedy time machine. We are going to explore the surprisingly relatable and honestly, sometimes completely baffling history of ancient humor in this explainer.
So what actually cracked up our ancestors 4,000 years ago? I mean, when you strip away modern technology, the internet, and pop culture, has human nature and what we find funny really changed all that much?
Here's the timeline we're looking at. We start way back in 1900 BC with the earliest known joke from Sumer. Then, we jump forward to ancient Greece, between the 2nd and 4th centuries AD, for the Philogellus collection, and finally, we land right back here in the present day, where historians are still trying to figure out what half of this stuff actually meant.
Case in point, this is literally the oldest known joke in human history, etched into a Sumerian cuneiform tablet around 1900 BC. It goes, "Something which has never occurred since time immemorial, a young woman did not fart in her husband's lap." Now, whatever specific comedic wisdom that proverb was trying to drop on us, yeah, it's pretty much been lost to time.
But thankfully, another ancient Sumerian joke uses a setup you'll definitely recognize. The classic walks into a bar format. It goes, a dog walks into a bar and says, "I can't see a thing, I'll open this one." Does that make sense to you? Because it really doesn't to me. And that highlights a huge challenge here. Deciphering ancient jokes can be incredibly tough.
Which brings us to our first main section, Lost in Translation, Why Ancient Punchlines Fall Flat. You see, the absolute biggest hurdle is language itself. Take a classic English pun like, time flies like an arrow, fruit flies like a banana. It's clever, right? But if you try to translate that into a language where the insect and the action of flying are two entirely different words, the wordplay vanishes, the joke completely disintegrates.
And language isn't the only barrier. We also have to talk about missing cultural context. Think about it. Comedy relies heavily on misdirecting your expectations. But if you don't actually know what a society's baseline expectations even were, that misdirection is meaningless. The punchline is just going to fall totally flat.
So, with all that in mind, what is still funny today? Is there anything that survived the test of time? Well, despite those massive barriers, there are actually quite a few ancient jokes that miraculously still work perfectly millennia later.
To find them, we have to look to a text called the Philogellus, which translates to lover of laughter. Compiled in ancient Greece during the Roman period, this is literally the oldest surviving joke book in the world. It's got over 260 jokes, and it acts as this incredible anthropological tool.
Let's start with a classic setup, proving the village idiot trope is, well, pretty much universally understood. It goes like this. An idiot is trying to sell his horse when a potential buyer asks, "Has it lost its first set of teeth?" The idiot confidently responds, "Oh, it's already lost its second set. First it knocked out mine, then it knocked out my father's." Honestly, that snappy dialogue feels like it could be pulled right out of a modern stand-up routine.
Or how about this one? A man sees his local doctor walking down the street and quickly hides his face. His friend asks him why he's hiding. The man replies, "It's been so long since I was last ill, I'm embarrassed to see him." It just goes to show you social anxiety has been reliable comedic material since the Roman period.
Ancient comedy also leaned heavily into visual humor. Picture this. A traveler comes across a really deep well and asks a farmhand if the water is safe. The farmhand assures him it is, adding that his own parents used to drink from it all the time. The traveler peers way down into the dark, deep well and asks, "How long were their necks?"
Okay, moving into our next section. The window into the past. Taboos, tropes, and barbarian trousers. To truly understand the weirder jokes in the collection, we have to look objectively at ancient Greek comedy tropes. They mocked tight barbarian trousers, used double entendres for taboo relationships, joked about incest, leaned into deadpan literalism, and constantly roasted their regional rivals. Now, obviously we aren't endorsing these views today, but studying them is absolutely crucial to help us decode their history.
For example, let's look at how they played with cheeky misdirection. A young man is hosting some frisky older women. He turns to his slaves and says, "Mix a drink for whoever wants it and sleep with whoever wants it." Without missing a beat, the women reply, "I'm not thirsty."
They also absolutely loved dragging their regional rivals. Like this one. At a funeral in the city of Syme, a visitor asks an official, "Who's the dead guy?" The Symean official points and says, "The one lying in the coffin." Just perfect deadpan literalism. It really is an ancient art form.
I want to leave you with one final joke from the Philogellus.
The setup is arguably the most modern sounding of the entire collection. It goes, "A landlord sees how happy his tenants are."
So he evicts them. Wow. Despite massive cultural shifts over thousands of years, some frustrations and the dark humor we use to cope with them remain entirely timeless.
In this explainer, we just used comedy as a window to understand the ancient Greeks and Sumerians better. So it really makes you wonder, if a civilization is judged by what makes it laugh, what are our modern memes, internet humor, and stand-up routines going to say about us to future historians 4,000 years from now?